Shalom and greetings from Jerusalem, Jane, coming to you on a heartbreaking day here in Israel. What you see up here is a young boy crying his eyes out as he's attending the funeral of his two brothers who were brutally murdered in a terror attack yesterday. Not one, but two young men, 20 and 22 years old, brutally murdered just for being Jewish, gunned down while they were driving in their car. At least 16 bullets were fired into their car, and now this young boy, his two other siblings and his parents are now at the gravesites burying their two brothers, their two precious sons, murdered for no other reason than being Jewish. I want to show you their faces. Hillel and Yagal Yaakov, 20 and 22 years old. In 2 weeks, these two brothers was murdered, and these two brothers were murdered by Palestinian terrorists here in Israel. And now another heartbreaking funeral is taking place here in Israel. Did you know that within a month, 13 people were shot, murdered, just for being Jewish here in Israel? Our hearts are broken, and I'm sending my deepest condolences to the families of these victims. Over and over again, parents in this country has to bury their loved ones, their children, gunned down, shot, rammed to death just for being Jewish. And now this is Channel 14 who's sending this funeral, broadcasting this funeral live. I have been reporting from Israel for many years, from every single terror attack that has taken place in this country. The list is growing and growing. Children, grandchildren, mothers and fathers are being plainly executed for no other reason than being Jewish, and funeral upon funeral upon funeral. Jewish people living in Judea and Samaria has become demonized as radical, right-wing extremist settlers. For what? For settling in the biblical heartland that the Jewish people has 1,000 and thousands years of connections to. Did you know that the minute these guys were killed, these young precious brothers were killed, they started celebrating in Palestinian cities here in Israel. They started handing out candies. They started glorifying these murderers, these terror attacks, these murderers, like we see over and over again. Jewish people living here, it doesn't matter for the Arabs. If you're living in Haifa, if you're living in Tel Aviv, if you're living in Jerusalem, you are a settler. You have stolen Palestinian land, and for that reason, it's legal to kill you. Every time we have a terror attack like this, they are out glorifying it, they are out justifying it, that these are colonizers, that these are occupiers, so you just go and kill them wherever you find them. And that is why we are seeing all of these terror attacks. Palestinian children are being taught in their home, in their school, in their school books, when they go to school, when they, we have seen when they are performing plays in school, they're learning how to be soldiers and how to be terrorists and murder Israeli soldiers. And yet again, a Jewish family is ripped to pieces because of this lie of occupation, that the Jewish people are occupying a Palestinian state that never ever existed in this time of history. But for that reason, Palestinians are out murdering the Jewish people because they have to liberate Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. The list of terror victims is growing every single year. Esther Hogan, Jewish mother, murdered out running in the woods, murdered just for being Jewish. I Fools, murdered standing in a supermarket shopping to his family, murdered just for being Jewish. These two young brothers, Asher and Yaakov, ran to death, murdered in the street just for being Jewish. Daphne Meir, murdered in the front door of her house, murdered just for being Jewish. The list goes on and on. Ori Ansbach, a beautiful 19-year-old Jewish girl, out walking in the streets, brutally raped and murdered just for being Jewish. All while all the Palestinians are out celebrating every time a Jew is being murdered. Every time they glorify it, they celebrate it. And of course, these terrorists are being handsomely rewarded. They are becoming millionaires and becoming martyrs just for murdering Jewish people. So I just wanted to make this update. As you can see, another funeral, another grieving family behind me. They have to bury two sons who was doing nothing. Two beautiful young boys driving in their cars, executed, 16 bullets fired into their car. And now siblings, 3 siblings and 2 parents has to say goodbye. I want to say this because I know the whole mainstream media is coming against Israel. They are not covering this. No. They are covering how some Jewish people was igniting, setting houses on fire and burning some vehicles in Hari last night where this terror attack took place. Condemning it. Crazy right-wing settlers. Let's put this in perspective. Let's put this in perspective. How many Jewish people is being murdered just for being Jewish? How the Jewish people is always paying the price. How they have to show restraint. How they have to be quiet. How they just have to literally just take this. And if they say, you know what, now we're going to build in Israel, we're going to build out in Judea and Samaria, they kill our children, well, we start building. And then the world comes against them and condemn them because you can't build, God forbid, Jews are building in Judea and Samaria. So this is absolutely outrageous. It's so heartbreaking. So, like I said, the list of terror attacks in this country is thousand upon thousand every year because these terrorists is being encouraged to go out and liberate Palestine and murder the Jewish people. We have stoning attacks, shooting attacks, ramming attacks every day, literally some sort of attacks every single day. So that's where your focus needs to be, on what's happening here in Israel. It's just so heartbreaking. It is just so heartbreaking. And I'm sending my deepest condolences to the families of these victims. These 2 precious young men. And also to the other people who has been murdered this month. 13 people alone. Alone this month murdered, shot down in the streets here in Israel. So thank you for standing with Israel for such a time as this. The Jewish people are not some crazy right-wing settlers. These are people like you and me, flesh and blood, who is doing what God has commanded them to do. Settled in my land. Go and build vineyards and settle in Judea and Samaria. That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. But then, because of that, they're being demonized. So I will always stand with Israel for such a time as this, as we are coming together, mourning another funeral in the Jewish state. So please share out this video so the news comes out there, the truth comes out there. The list of terror attacks against Jewish people is just absolutely horrendous. It becomes longer and longer and longer and longer every year. So for such a time as this, Like I said, may their memories be a blessing, those two precious young men, and may God comfort their families. Bye.